Yes, we are live. All right.
Yay.
So, okay, we're going to talk about socializing kittens and kitten stuff and kitten socialization, and kitten season is coming. Um, I'm excited. I could use some kittens in my life.
No, no, Laura, no, you
Yeah,
cannot.
yeah.
You've got too many right now. You don't need a kitten on top of everything.
Well, I actually only have four cats in my house, which is the smallest number of cats I've had in about 10 years. So
Ooh.
it feels
Well, are you counting Lennox in or are you not counting
I'm
Lennox?
counting, he's number five. So
Okay.
we'll see if he ever decides to come home. But right
So
now,
for those who don't know, Laura's kitty Lennox decided to take a little break and go for a walkabout in the middle of winter. And he's being just a little bit of a stubborn
he's
boy.
he's just he's
He's
just
there.
on an adventure without me.
Yes,
And
he's just went on a solo trip. Um, and don't worry, Laura knows exactly where he is. Lennox got a
I'm
little.
doing all the responsible things,
Yes,
but he is outsmarting me at every turn. So,
yeah. Well, it's his little vacation. Does
well,
he does he like kittens?
he doesn't like anything.
So
He
it's not like you're going to get a kitten and say, "Hey, Lennox, I've got a kitten. Come home."
he doesn't like anything. He likes Bean, but I am not putting Bean outside to entice him back.
No,
So,
no.
but Lennox is a good segue into our topic. Um, the reason why Lennox is the way that he is because the shelter that I got him from was not the most transparent with his socialization level when I agreed to foster him, and he was somewhere between 3 and 4 months old and had just been trapped outside and had never been handled before. So I did my best, but you can only do so much. And he has um, he has never been a normal cat. Uh,
Normal cat.
I do love him very much. He's special in his own way, but I'm very angry with him right now, so it's hard to say anything else nice about him. So,
You know what? Like all my cats, all my kitties came from the streets, and they were kittens, and I think Hobbs was. You know what? I don't even know how old they were. They were because it was a long time ago. Um, so the little Kichu was maybe smallish. They were all weaned and stuff, right? They were old enough to eat proper normal food. And yes, they did like their outdoors. Like they were like, "Oh, the door is open. I'm going to go." And I mean, Hobbs, thank God, bless his heart, he would go out and then get lost. Like he couldn't find his way back home. But he wanted to go out to the point where he would open the doors, like the handles. We had like not the knobby ones, but the pressing ones. And so he would hang off, like he would not hang off because he was a big boy, so he could stretch up with his paws and like open the handle and latch it, open the door and get out. And when we started locking the door, he started batting at the key. So yeah, so definitely there is something kind of, I don't know. But then he would get out and then he would get lost and then he would cry and then he would walk back all to home all the way with me, telling me off and telling me all the stories. Like, boy,
no,
dude.
Lennox is a
I think it's so interesting hearing you guys going back and forth about these kitten adventures out.
mhm.
And certainly when I wanted to um, do this thing with you guys and get interest and kind of talk about what people's experiences were, it's interesting because obviously you're talking about cats that have access to outdoors. And sitting up here in New York City, we don't really do that, right? And there was actually a study that just came out, and I think they did it in Australia. And they were saying, kind of, if you don't want the cats to go out, don't ever let them go out to begin with, right? Because once you let them out, they're like, we know it's out there. And what I was hoping really that we could talk about in this approaching kitten season is not just kittens, but socializing feral, right? Because what we're seeing right now, and I'm sure you're seeing it where you are too, is this tremendous explosion of kittens, and what happens with rescuers and adopters, and then behaviorists like the three of us sitting here, is we get questions and we then try to help, but we're helping this really small number of people that are coming to us, right? But the great thing about doing these kind of things like with Facebook Live or with PPG or things that are just open to people, where we've got resources that are free for the reading or the viewing, is to look at what do we do with these kittens? Like Laura was saying, I got this cat in the shelter, didn't necessarily tell me everything. And then Joanna, you're like, well, I got this cat and, he was, I don't know how old he was. Because if you go past 7 weeks, right, the socialization, the sensitive period for socialization, and what they used to call it critical, right? It was like, that was it was over, you couldn't do it. But that, and there's research on that, certainly, right? You've got to handle the cat. The kitten Karsh did a lot of this stuff really early on with how much time are you handling these cats so that they become amenable to human presence. And when we're talking about shelters or, rescues, you only have so much time to interact with these kittens or
Well,
these adults.
yeah. So what? I'm in Houston. We have kitten
Yeah.
season all year long.
Right. Exactly.
So we have kitten season and more kitten season. But also, I come from a shelter, or I started my behavior work, my behavior trainer journey in a shelter here, or in a rescue here in Houston, Friends for Life, that has amazing kitten socialization protocol and program. And I don't know if you're familiar with Melissa Chan and her work, or Melissa Taylor and Chan Taylor. She uses both surnames, and her work on socializing the kittens in the shelter environment, when she, where there is a whole protocol that is being followed, kind of step by step, with a lot of very fear-free, very low pressure environment in a shelter. And I know this is a special shelter, and not every shelter, not every rescue has time to do that. But yeah, there is definitely places like this and shelters like this. So
those are great when you have those kind of really,
yeah.
those protocols and those programs. I mean, there are certainly shelters up here in New York that will do that kind of work and that have have protocols and have staff. But what you've also got is a huge number, especially, I think, I don't know what the stats are because I don't have those numbers, but you have a tremendous number in New York City, which is an extremely large city with an extremely large feral cat population, where you have a lot of independent rescues that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, right? They're doing a lot of the work. It's volunteer driven, it's donation driven. And I think the real concern, and the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, and to really even get from people out there, hopefully, whether it's listeners now or people, writing in later, or just even what they're to try to work with the methods that they're working with. Because what I'm seeing, and I don't know what you're seeing down there, but what I see up here too, is people will get these older kittens, right? And kittens are kittens for over a year, but they'll get these older kittens, and then they're kind of doing this, I don't know if you're seeing this, but this new thing I started seeing last year was this forced love thing, where they kind of force the cat into contact, into interactions, and you get this kind of a learned helplessness or this, submissiveness. And then this is kind of, oh, it's okay. We'll adopt this cat out. And then what can happen, not always, because it depends on who gets the cat. But what we get is we get people adopting cats. The cat goes into a new environment with a new person, and it doesn't work. So there's relinquishment. And part of the relinquishment comes too, because as we know, any cat, I don't care what the level of socialization, needs to acclimate to the new environment and to the new person. But we kind of get this revolving door thing going. And sometimes any socialization with a cat that's not been previously socialized is going to be to the new environment and to the new person. But if we can do it in a more gradual, progressive, learned, informed way, maybe that cat has a better chance of staying with that person that they go with. And a lot of the time, the quandary too comes from when we adopt the cat out, does the person really know how to do this? Because it's beyond just the new environment and resources and distribution of
Yeah.
resources and all that. You know where I'm going
Yeah,
with
and
this?
I totally agree that there's, there's rescues and shelters and rescuers, who mean well, but, use the oven gloves, do the purita,
Right.
all those things. And I don't think this is a new thing. I actually think this is an old thing, to be
I
honest.
have pictures of myself doing it 10 years ago. So,
Yeah. So, so I think kind of the question is then, kind of from what you were saying, the question is how do we educate the rescuers and the rescues and the shelters, right? Because these are the people, and so do you have an idea? Do you have a system? How can we reach those people? Because I think that's kind of like we know, and I'm going to bet that 99% of our listeners know how to properly socialize a kitten and how important it is. So now the question is, how do we get it out from like our little bubble?
Well, I think, certainly I've written about this, right? So I have, and I even sent you all a link I have a website where I've got tons of articles that are free for the reading. And I've got one, Socializing Furrows, where I actually take you step by step how to do it, right? So that's there. I have a book what I wrote, Behavior Matters for Cats and Dogs, where I go into way in depth on socializing ferals, and I take you step by step how to do it. But you have to then, of course, be motivated enough to want to do the reading and want to have the interest to do it. And
Exactly.
we are also in the bubble, not just of speaking to the choir, but we're also in a bubble where our clients and the people that are reaching out to us are interested to know. And the other side of that is we're also in a world where people, we're in the 1 minute soundbite world, where if you don't say it in 60 seconds, I'm not interested to learn how to do it, and all the rest of that. But if we've got people that are interested enough to find out about this, and we can get the material out there. There is research again that says that people don't necessarily want to pay someone to tell them. People don't necessarily want to hear something they don't agree with, that they don't believe in. But if they will do a degree of research, and they will do a degree of looking for themselves. And that's why I try, and I'm sure you all do too, to put material out there that is accessible, whether it's on social media, whether it's on my website, whether it is someone who's motivated enough to read a book, so we can get it out there. We can, let people know about it. And my motivation too for wanting to talk to you all about this in the region that I'm in, which is where kitten season is exploding, and we have kittens being dumped at rescues, and and all of this stuff going on, is like, okay, can maybe somebody out there gets to hear this and says, okay, all right, maybe there's a different way to do this, or let me try doing that instead. sign of the thing. And also wanting to hear from people in the field about the things that have worked for people to be able to do to reach people to do it differently. Because I think there's a lot of good behavior people out there. There's a lot of us that know how to do this, but what are the where are there better ways that we can find to reach or to get this stuff out to help more cats?
I think being a part of rescues as a foster or a volunteer, if you are able to do so, gives you big street credit in their eyes. So you're not just some like snooty professional.
Mhm.
You are actually there doing it with them, wrangling up the kittens from outside and all that stuff. I take videos and pictures of my foster kittens. If I have an opportunity to kind of demo in person, I can remember, I think it was my kittens 2 summers ago. I went to another volunteer's house to pick them up. They were in a dog crate. I had to transfer them to a carrier. And she hands me an oven mitt and a spatula. And I'm like, I am not cooking dinner here. We are moving kittens. So I was like, no, thank you. And I used a towel and I was able to, move the kittens who were terrified and feral at that point without stress or getting scratched or bitten. I mean, there was stress, but she was like, wow, how'd you do that? I'm like, well,
But I think
I'm
you're
not coming at their face with a giant oven mitt hand and poking them with a spatula.
Yeah.
but
And you
So,
have
I
great.
yeah.
Sorry,
Let me-
because Laura's
I
got.
just want to go ahead.
No, because Laura's got the great point, but you cannot kind of to make a change in rescues and in shelters. You have to be on the inside. You cannot you cannot do it from the outside. And I know like we both, like Laura worked in a shelter. I volunteered in a shelter. Laura now still volunteers in shelters and fosters a ton of kittens. Right? You foster a ton of
A
kittens.
lot less than I used to, but I have at least one set of kittens every year.
Yeah, so I think this is the way, I guess,
But
because
I mean, I've volunteered in shelters. I mean, that's where I started, was volunteering in shelters. And
Mhm.
to Laura's point about the snooty professional, actually goes to that research that says that people, it actually says the more learned the information that they find, if they don't agree with it, that's the interesting part of that, is that if it comes from an expert, it comes from an academic and somebody who's got, you know, whatever credentials, whatever authority, and it goes against what their confirmation bias is, they're more strongly
Mhm.
subject to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that is what's very interesting about that point,
yeah,
is that it's not the snooty professional, so to speak, it's the person
Mhm.
who doesn't want to hear that and resents the fact that it's coming from a place of expertise. So at least,
Yeah.
which, is an interesting point. But certainly, I don't think that, you know, anybody's social media, I think we all know, showing the actual cats, showing the animals that we're working with, showing how we do things with these animals. Yes, people love that, and that's what they'll respond to. I think what, and certainly, I think going from the formal organizations, because the shelters certainly that I've worked with and that I've been in and that I've volunteered for, um, have a whole different way of operating than the rescues, which I think is really where I see more of the real things that possibly may need to be addressed in terms of surrender and in terms of how attempts at socialization may be going sideways.
Well,
So, you know what I'm saying? Not it's not
mhm.
about the shelters. It's because so much of the time the shelters do bring in people and there's a staff and there's a real desire to get it right and get it down. And, I'm not saying that the rescues don't want to do this, they do, but sometimes we don't necessarily have all the tools in terms of our toolbox or our resources in order to be able to be doing it correctly. And there's more push to adopt out rather than to make sure that the animal stays with the adopter because they've gotten in there the right way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And go ahead, Laura.
I think what is interesting, well, I was at a shelter last weekend doing a low stress handling class for volunteers. And I was talking to their behavior person, and she was like, yeah, every shelter does like a kitten shower this time of year, where they do the bottle baby class and they do that side of the training, like how to take care of the neonatals. We used to have it in my shelter too, so I'm assuming it's everywhere. They do the same kitten classes. And I was like, do you cover kitten socialization methods in those classes? No, nothing. Um, and that was the case, when I was working at my shelter as well. The foster program did the kitten class and no information about socialization and behavior. So I don't know. I think we need to maybe stick our noses in those kitten classes and see, even if it's volunteer time, because this shelter that I'm working with currently does not have a large budget. Their volunteers are pulling in to pay me for my time. So I'm considering, because it's just they need the help so much.
And also, I think just like you said, Frania, but it's kind of hard coming, like there's that confirmation bias that people have. So that's why it's even more important to do things kind of show, don't tell, like Laura's example when, she showed a different way, right? Because what I hear a lot of times, it's like, oh, it's all fine and dandy, but we don't have time for this.
Yeah.
We don't have time for behavior.
Oh, we don't have budget for this, or we don't have people for this. So, so we kind of have to show them that doing things this way is not necessarily slower, or it doesn't take more time, or it doesn't take more resources. And once people see that, the results, then they are, turned around. We had a guest on our podcast a long time ago, 3 years ago or more, from he was from a rescue local to me from Houston, and I don't know if it was on our call or if it was in my private conversation with him, but he was giving his cat a pill and he was scruffing. And I showed him a different way, kind of without scruffing. And, the cat was struggling and he was struggling with medicating. And he got back to me and he was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so much easier. And so, once people try it or see it and it works and they realize that it works, then it's different, right?
Yeah.
But the problem, I think, is that, and this is something that is a little bit of a pet peeve of Laura and I, and certainly a lot of cat behavior people that we know, social media. And all those funny videos of the kittens that are scared, right? And the spicy kittens, and then people coming in with those mittens or whatever, and that's what gets to the front. That's what people will see, right? So that's when people think this is normal, this is how it's supposed to be done, this is how it is done.
I think one of our problems is our methods are very boring. They are not very interesting to look at.
Yeah.
Because they're not showing any extreme. We're never getting the animal to an extreme that creates good content.
Yeah.
Well, this is exactly what it is. What you said, you both said, especially Johnny, when you were talking about the time factor. I mean, the thing about it is with cats, and you got to go slow to go fast, right? Don't have time for behavior. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to socialization, especially the older the animal, all right,
You're going to get faster with kittens than you will with older cats, but they'll also, people want to adopt out, not just, there's this big push, the let's adopt out the mama cat, and it is true that some of these may still be kittens themselves, but some of them may be older cats, or the older toms. And can you socialize an older feral? Yes. Does it take time? Oh yeah, can take months, sometimes more than that. But it does happen, and it will happen eventually. I mean, these cats, the other thing too is, I mean, they may end up with like an insecure attachment in the sense that they're very attached to the one person that socialized them, but may not necessarily translate as easily and as quickly, but it's a time thing. And this is what we hear over and over again. I think this is the quandary for whoever it is who's working in rescue, whether it's formally with a informal rescue or a private rescue or a shelter, is that they don't necessarily have the time to deal with that volume because of the whole volunteer aspect, or so if they're working with fosters. But empowering the fosters, empowering the people that they're working with so that there is more material.
Yeah.
To social media, I try to put as much stuff as I can to kind of balance that other stuff. Does my content, or will anybody's content who's putting that out there get as many views? No way, because it's what Laura said. They they want to see all that razzle dazzle stuff that we don't have.
Yeah.
But without that, that's where you get the staying power. That's where you get the adoptions that don't end up in surrender, right? That's where you get the people who are more, you know, empowered to be able to take care of these cats, who are more knowledgeable about their welfare. So I know we all have the war stories, but I just, at this time of year, would just like to say, hey, wait a minute, there's different ways, and let's take a minute so that we have time. I hear it over and over again, what you said, Joanna, don't have time for behavior. I've heard about cats, dogs, but if you making time for behavior is what keeps the animal in the forever home,
I think it is changing a little bit in shelters and rescues, even in like municipal shelters. I have seen kind of over the years that there's been more interest, and there's
Sure,
been kind of people are starting to think a little bit more about behavior. There's more
absolutely.
like I know that in Houston area shelters. I mean the rescue that I volunteered in, but now my friend here in Houston is running a behavior program in one of the municipal shelters here. And there is a lot of interest. People want to learn, people want to know more, and the more we educate the volunteers, because staff has no time, and I'm going to be like, I would not want to put another thing on staff. But if we educate, help educate the volunteers, the people that are coming there and helping, and they come to those bottle classes, or bottle feeding classes, and they also get, so here's how you bottle feed, but also here's what here are other things you do that are going to help this kitten.
That's what I'm encountering with the shelter that I'm working with. The volunteers are watching staff scruff cats and manhandle cats, and they have learned that there is a different way to do it. They can kind of see, because they're experienced cat people, the distress that it puts on the cat, and they're like 100% buy-in. They want to do better, and they want to set the example for the staff and let the staff see that it's not any more time consuming to do it the low stress way. I have run into this, and this is going to sound like a humble brag, so I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I think,
do
I
it.
think sometimes I make it look too
Don't humble brag, just
easy.
brag.
I think sometimes I make it look too easy, and people don't believe that they can do it too. Like, I'm thinking of a couple examples. Like, I was at an adoption event, and I was watching somebody try to pull this poor cat by the scruff out of the carrier. And I was like, would you let me see if I can get him out? and I literally just held the carrier up to the crate and the cat walked in on his own. And I don't know. I hopefully that changed something in their brain. And then last summer, my foster kittens were, let's see if I can socialize this entire, it was 3 kittens. If I can socialize this litter of kittens with just a cat dancer and nothing else. And that was my little project, and it worked. Like all I did was go in there and play with them with the cat dancer multiple times a day. And
Imagine.
that was all I did. And I'm like broadcasting this on social media and I'm not getting any like engagement with it because people are like, yeah, right. I don't know.
I mean, you didn't use any, you know, any magical drops. There were no diffusers, so how could you have done it? It's not interesting.
I used a wire and a piece of cardboard to fully socialize.
Are cat dancers still $2 or
Yeah, I
have
think
they-
they've gone up to 3.
Yeah. I mean, you know, a $3 piece of equipment cannot possibly.
Interactive play, the biggest bang for your buck with cats, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's really just such magic. It really is. You know what I find though, and I totally get what you're saying, Laura, with the showing, and I do it more with dogs because I don't really like to do it as much with cats, but you have to at some point. I had a client once and they said to me, I see how you do it, but I want you to show me how to do it. So standing there and guiding that person through it, where having them do the thing instead, it's like I'll model it and then here now you and get them to do it step by step. It's harder with cats because cats are more fragile and they're going to be like more reactive to like the wrong touch, you know, or the wrong approach. So you really have to like step by step micromanage the you know, the person, but that's been really helpful for me because that was like one of a light bulb moment when that one client, this was years ago, they're like, I need to be able to do it. Show me, you know, like I watch you do all these things, but I want to be doing it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're right. Here,
Yeah,
let's have
no,
you do it.
I mean, absolutely right. I think this is our work. Our like,
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, you know, because I also work with dogs and cats, just like you, Frania. And so I'm like, you know, I go to clients and I love training dogs, so I
I
will
know.
have fun with them, you know, unless it's a stranger danger, and I'm like, I'm not, you know, I'm not going to interact with them at all. And I like the stranger danger to the point that they are not even that they're not even kind of responding to me. So you know, I like to go and I do this training and then I'm like, whoops, I know that I can train a dog, but I want you to be able to train your dog. I want you to be able I want to give my clients all the tools. I want to become obsolete. Like I want them not to need me anymore, basically. That's my goal. And you know, I don't know, Frania, how you do your cat consults, but both Laura and me, we do cat consults exclusively virtually. So the only way that we can get our clients to you know, we can get the cats trained is by coaching our clients and you know, and talking them through the process. And it's definitely harder, right? Because you do have to think about every single tiny little thing, things that you do naturally and don't even think about it. But then you realize that you know, when you say pull out your hand, it can be this, it can be that, it can be, you know. So yeah, absolutely.
I recently had a client who just was not grasping the concept of voluntary sharing, the pattern game, and I had sent them written instructions, shown them multiple videos, and just it was not happening. So I got down and I brought 2 of my cats in here and I sat on the floor on live video with them and I was doing it with my cats. And I was like talking through every little thing that I was doing and why I was sitting like this and why I had this out and I was sitting there making mistakes because it's not something that I do on a daily basis. So I think even more with virtual, you have to have everything in your toolbox because I'm learning there are some people who are fine watching a video. There are some people who cannot do that. And I mean, the best you can do is I'm doing a lot more live demos with my cats for training things than I used to. I think that's made a big difference.
Do you do in person cats, Frania, or do you do
I,
virtual?
I mainly do, and I try to do mainly in person. And I just feel that with whether it's cats, dogs, or birds, if I go into the environment, I'm getting such a read on the dynamic, on what's around, and on the animal itself. Now, having said that, obviously, and I do a whole host of, I have tons of um, training and, demonstration videos on, like I just real quick, I did one on pilling cats. I have a couple on pilling cats. And I had one comment where somebody said, well, yeah, but that's your cat. So of course you can pill it, but try to pill my cat. I'm like, yeah, point taken. But when I go in there, the thing with going into somebody's home and seeing their cat is mostly that cat. I mean, there are individuals that will come up to you and be like, hi, but most of them necessarily are not going to greet you at the door, with bells on. That's cats. They don't. You're a new person, you're a novel presence, especially if you're going into, talk about socialization. These are cats that probably have never been outside, have not been exposed to a whole host of people except for known affiliates of their owner. So I am going in there and I am seeing things, and it's a lot easier then for me to be able to coach the person, because that cat is going to be more amenable to having the owner touch them, how to, interact. But if I pull out my bird, or my cat dancer, yes, then I can start to build a relationship, right? Like Laura said, you pull out a cat, toy, and you've got a different thing going. So that you can kind of ramp it up that way. But yeah, most of my consults, if I can do them, I still like to do the old fashioned go in person, especially for um, even stranger danger dog, like anything like that, where I want to get as much read on a situation as I possibly can.
Yeah, kind of to your point of cats not necessarily meeting enough people. I was fostering kittens through the pandemic, or not through during the pandemic, and I was worried because it was just me in the house. Like my husband traveled right before the pandemic started, so he was stuck overseas. So it was just me, and I was like, well, those poor kittens. They just they just know one single human in their life. So I've luckily kind of when the restrictions kind of got a little bit easier, and I'm here in Houston at least, I did make a point of getting people, from the shelter to come and just play, just do some interactive play with the kittens. Just sit on a couch and play with them. And that's, there's more and more programs, I think, kindergarten programs that are happening too. So we can get those kittens out and socialize them and have them, get them used to being in a carrier and going to a new place that is not necessarily only veterinarian, right? But seeing other cats, even if it's through little barriers, seeing other people, doing things in other, in a different environment. And I wish that more veterinary clinics bought into kitten kindergartens. I would have loved to be able to do kitten kindergartens in the veterinary clinics, because I think that's just the perfect environment for it.
I have a whole curriculum and no one will take me up on it.
I even offered my friend who owns a veterinary clinic that is fear-free certified and cat friendly. And I'm like, hey girl, I can come in and do like this kitten kindergarten for you. And she was like, yeah, talk to my admin. And I think that because big part of socialization is not just kind of getting cats used to the people and a human, but also to all those other things that might be happening in their life, right?
New things, novel things,
Yeah,
right?
all the novel,
the whole point.
Yeah, all the novel experiences, right? So
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why I prefer to do my cat consults virtually is because I feel like if I go to a home with a cat, I'm disrupting the the normal dynamic that is there. And especially if it's like an intercat aggression or anything, because most of the cats are not used to having strangers in the house,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
right?
And that's also when I do remotes, and I do remotes, I will say to people, I try to get as much video and pictures ahead of time or whatever
Yeah,
else. And they're like,
Yeah.
do you want to see this? I'm like, I don't want anything staged. Just like take, or even just whatever candidates, like what's really happening. Or
yeah,
even when I go in person, do you want to see? No, let's just
Mhm.
to your point
yeah,
about the stranger danger dogs, what's an interesting thing to do, and I don't know if you're doing this, Joanna, but meeting them on a neutral corner. So I don't go into the house. If you tell me, and I don't even care if you tell me your dog's not aggressive, because maybe you think he's not, but maybe, he is if there's a new person. I have them meet me on the closest corner because the closest corner is not going to be the one they think they own. They own the street, they own the front of the house, they own the house. So I have them meet me and then we walk together and then they'll be like for a half a block or whatever, and then we go into the house. And that brings down the whole stranger danger thing tremendously. And people will say to me, oh, well, do you want to see how, he does this or that? I'm like, no, let's just do
yeah.
what you normally do. Like just do the thing, the way you normally do it. And let's,
Back 1 second.
yeah, you know,
Um, yeah, well, with stranger danger dogs, it kind of depends on the dog, to be honest with you. Kind of
well, that's true
like
too.
how I
Yeah.
do it. I've had dogs that I've met. I've had one extreme case that we've met outside. We walked together, and he was still like, "I'm going to eat you," and because he had a history of biting two previous trainers. Then so we pivoted to I'm going to apologize to all the cat people listening right now. We're talking dogs, but we actually met at the sniff spot, and we met at the sniff spot, and the dog was inside the sniff spot, kind of inside the yard, and I was outside of the yard. So that's there are many ways that you can kind of and after 2 or 3 sessions, I was a friend.
So, but we'll bring it back to cats. To Stephen saying you get these cats that are really, scared of people or can be really shut down, and so they'll be, I'll go into someone's home. It's like, where's the cat? He's hiding. I don't know. You're going to be able to see him. He's going to hide under the bed. So that's where I will. I will try at that point to bring out right away something like go to natural behavior and pull out the bird or
Yeah.
something because and I like the cat dancer, but what I like about the bird, it's got feathers. So I
Yes.
really want to just really go to the most like innate, instinctive like thing that's bred into you,
Oh, the
that
bird
you
is
have.
magic.
Right. So if you're hiding under the bed, and even if I can just get you to come forward and, start playing with it with your paws, so that now you can start to come out and now you can start to or at least know that
Yeah.
change the neurons, change what's ever going on, the emotional reaction, so that we start to get something where we take away the fear. Because so much of this is fear, right?
Oh, yeah.
So much, so much of this lack of socialization, this neophobia, really goes to being afraid of new things in the environment because they might hurt me and they might be dangerous. And
Yeah.
so, how can we, kind of, replace that? You know, so I think even if we could even just leave people, you know, the more we can, if we know more, we can do more. If we know better, we can do better. When we talk about socialization and we talk about time, just to go back to interactive play, I know we've talked about it before, but
Mhm.
it's such a great thing to be able to do, and it can be 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be, a half hour. Cats are programmed to play, to hunt and play in these very short bursts. So
And I
we're not
think,
doing a disservice when we do short.
do you know, kind of what the things you said, what you just said, kind of had me thinking, because we are thinking about how we can change how people approach, like other people approach the kittens. And I think making the point to explain, kind of to show people and tell people this is fear, this is not fun, or this is not being spicy, this is not being aggressive, this is fear, this is what fear looks like, right? And so once people realize that animals are doing things out of fear, I think that maybe switches a little bit the way they approach them.
I mean, we think
Hopefully, you know,
baby kitten hisses, right? We think it's so cute. Like that's all over social
yeah.
media.
I
You
mean,
know,
it
you have
is.
these,
I mean, yes, it is funny, but
it is
it's also
adorable,
fear. But
right? But see, it's kind of mean in a way. And sometimes, like, I'll watch these like vet videos, and I'm like, that's kind of like, you know, this making fun of this little animal that's so scary.
yeah,
But it's true. I mean, we adore kittens, and when they do those little hisses, we're like, are you serious? But that's what that little kitten has,
yeah,
right? And he's doing it
yeah,
because he's afraid. He's a
yeah,
little
absolutely,
scared little cutie, you know?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so y'all, just so you know, Laura popped off our chat because Lennox apparently decided to show his face right now.
Hey, that's so fantastic.
So, like, fingers crossed that
Yeah.
Lennox finds his way home. Uh, I We've got about 3 minutes left, and the problem is I'm not on Facebook anymore. So I cannot see your comments. But if you do have questions for Frania, if you have questions for Lauren or I, just pop them in the comments. We will get to them and we will answer in the chat. And we will, Frania, if it's okay, we will contact you if there's any questions, and we're going to ask
Absolutely.
you. And then we can pop them right in the comments under the video.
And Joanna, I really, just to reiterate, anything that people would like to ask or anything for what is coming up, especially in the Northeast up here where we are encountering it more on a seasonal basis, because for us it's really more about the spring, and we have such
Yeah.
a big number up in New York City, and there's so many rescue groups that are dealing with this now, and there's just not enough people
Yeah.
to take care of to respond to the need. So if there's anything that we can do, and again, I would say not just for self, but also just because I really put the stuff I put out there because I really want to be able to have more credible resources that are out there. I have a website, animalbehaviorist.us. I have a whole free for the reading thing on socializing ferals and other cat things. So, and I'm sure, Joanna, you've got stuff too, but there's so many good resources
Yeah.
out there. There really are. There's a lot of good cat behavior people. We're there, you know.
So, maybe kind of throwing it out. If you all have any ideas that we haven't kind of touched upon,
Yes.
how we can, how we can reach to more people, brainstorm. Let's brainstorm
Question.
things out and see if we can find a way to get it all, that good information to more people. And I know this is like the hardest thing ever. It's the education part and finding our way outside of our bubbles.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's the great thing about being able to do something like this. And so
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for social media for that, because we just need to get out to hope that we can poke through some of those little bubble
Yeah.
spirits.
All right,
And hopefully
Frania, before we close up, because we are at the time, I know we started a little bit late, but I know that our listeners, our viewers, live viewers, kind of schedule their day around it. So before we leave, I know you've already mentioned it, but can you once again just mention your website? So where can people find you, and how can people contact you if they have any questions?
Sure. Okay. So my website is animalbehaviorist.us. I have a contact form on there. So if you go to my website, you can find all kinds of information on there. And also you can reach me directly to that website as well. It's got my numbers, it's got my emails, it's got a contact form, and it's got tons of top posts and how-tos and guides and tips and things like that. And you can also get my book through that too.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you for joining us today, Frania. And we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, but we got it, and
Yes.
we fixed it, and we keeping our fingers crossed for Laura and Lennox.
Yes.
We'll update you next month. We are working on the lineup for our chat and chuckles coming up, and we are kind of thinking that everyone really likes and enjoys talking about business side of things and the business side of being a cat consultant and how we became cat consultants. So this is kind of our theme, we think, for now, for the next few coming sessions. So we will be announcing some great guests soon. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great Friday, y'all. And thank you, Frania, again.
Thank you, Joanna. Good to talk to the both of you. Take care, and for Lennox.
Bye.